The opening scene features two friends, Sarah and Linda, going through a box of Sarah's late mother's belongings. They find a Polaroid camera and a picture of her mother, likely taken with the same camera. Sarah uses this camera to click a picture of herself in lingerie for her boyfriend. However, when the flash goes off, she feels somewhat uneasy. As they leave the photo to develop, Linda receives a call and departs. Alone, Sarah goes to shut the front door when she hears noises from upstairs, as if someone is using the camera. Upon heading to the room, she finds that the photo has been developed, but to her horror, she notices a shadowy figure in the background. Her fear intensifies when the lights start flickering and more noises are heard from another room. As Sarah anxiously walks through the hallway, a ball bounces down from the attic. Despite feeling terrified, she climbs up to the attic, but the ladder falls to the ground, leaving her no safe way back down. A confused Sarah then scans the area to find out what's going on, but suddenly an inhuman hand startles her, causing her to fall and suspend midair. Sarah is then snatched back up and killed before her dead body is thrown down. In the next scene, we are introduced to a shy girl, Bird Fitcher, who is preparing for picture day at school. She always wears a scarf to hide a scar on her neck, earning her the nickname Scarf Girl from her peers. After school, Bird is exiting the premises when she sees her crush Connor with his friends. She grabs her camera to click his picture, but he catches her in the act. Flustered, she quickly gathers her things and leaves for work at an antique shop. There, she's approached by her coworker, Tyler, who surprises her with a rare 70s Polaroid camera he found at a garage sale, with the letters RJS engraved in it. Eager to test it out, Bird clicks Tyler's picture. As they wait for the photo to develop, Tyler leans for a kiss, but Bird feels uncomfortable and walks away, leaving the camera case behind. Upon arriving home, Bird attempts to take some pictures of her dog with her new camera, but it strangely growls and backs away. Just before she can snap the picture, her best friend Casey shows up. She asks Bird to accompany her to a costume party, suggesting it's a great opportunity to mingle with friends and possibly see Connor. Bird, who is initially hesitant, agrees upon hearing her crush's name. Shortly after, they're picked up by their friends, Mina and Devin, a couple with a bit of a playful love-hate relationship. While joking around in the car, Bird pulls out Tyler's photo she took earlier and notices a dark shadow in the background. She tries to wipe it off, thinking it's just a smudge, but it doesn't go away. Despite this, she doesn't pay much attention and puts it back. On the other hand, Tyler is preparing to close the shop when he spots a bunch of old pictures in a box. He sets them on the projector and begins scrolling. During this, he notices a shadowy figure that moves from one photo to another. Suspecting that there's someone behind the curtain, he swings a hammer towards the shadow but doesn't hit anything. When he proceeds to check the projector, the curtain morphs into a figure and charges towards Tyler, seemingly ending his life. At the party venue, Bird and her friends are greeted by Avery, the host. Bird already seems uncomfortable, so she stands alone in a corner. Not long after, she notices a guy in a skeleton mask staring at her. She tries to evade him, but the man walks right in front of her and reveals himself to be Connor. It's a great relief for Bird, and they start conversing. Soon after, they're interrupted by Mina and Devin, who invite Connor to join them in a group selfie. The Bird then offers to click their photo using her Polaroid camera, but at the last second, Casey arrives out of nowhere and photo bombs. Once again, the dark shadow looms behind Connor. Avery then shows up and snatches Bird's camera to click a selfie, but before the photo can develop, the police enter the party looking for Bird. Next, we see Bird at the police station where Sheriff Pembroke reveals the devastating news of Tyler's death. He urges her to reach out if she finds any leads regarding the incident. As they converse, he recognizes her last name and recalls an accident she survived in her childhood. This explains the origin of her neck scars. That night, Bird reviews the pictures she took from her Polaroid camera. Much to her surprise, she realizes that the mysterious shadow has disappeared from Tyler's photo and has now appeared in Avery's. Meanwhile, Avery is cleaning her place after the party when she hears footsteps from upstairs. She cautiously heads to investigate, only to encounter a creepy figure lurking in the darkness. Terrified, she runs towards the front door, but accidentally hits her head on a lamp, causing her to fall. Despite this, she tries to crawl away, but the ghostly entity catches up to her and fatally snaps her neck. The following morning, morning, Bird receives a call from Casey, informing her about Avery's death. Shaken by the news, she goes to check the photos, only to discover that the shadow has now disappeared from Avery's photo and shifted to the group photo. Bird then tries to destroy the camera, but it emits a shockwave that knocks her over. Later at school, Bird sits with Mina, Devon, Casey, and Connor, all grappling with the recent tragedies. During this, she shares her theory that Avery's death wasn't accidental, explaining how the shadow moved from one photo to another after each death. She warns them that anyone photographed by this Polaroid camera dies. Unfortunately, nobody takes her words seriously, and Devon even burns the group photo. This surprisingly causes Mina's hand to burn in reality, and Casey also feels pain in her fingers. But before anyone is burned to death, Bird stomps on the picture, putting the fire out. The charred photograph then restores itself. In the aftermath, Mina is taken to the hospital to undergo surgery for her arm. As the friends wait outside, they discuss the origin of the camera. Bird recalls that the camera case is still at the antique shop, so she and Connor go to retrieve it. But when they reach the shop, Bird opts to go alone, saying that she's safe because she is not in the photo. While waiting in the car, Connor examines the group photo and suddenly hears the camera winding up. Inside, Bird retrieves the case, but the ghostly creature appears. Horrified, she runs towards the exit, but her scarf gets caught on a nail, choking her. It appears that she's going to meet her demise as well, but Connor arrives in the nick of time and saves her. Later, on their way back, Bird wonders why the entity came after her, to which Connor reveals that she's also in the picture. Turns out that a reflection can be faintly seen in the photo's background. At the hospital, Mina awakens from surgery and finds Devon by her bedside. After a brief chat, he steps out to call a nurse. At the same time, Mina receives a call from Bird, telling her not to be alone. Panicked, she tries to leave her bed, but the entity suddenly attacks her. By the time Devon returns, he finds the room empty with a little blood trail on the floor. He follows the trail and encounters the lifeless body of Mina hanging behind a curtain. When Bird and Connor arrive at the hospital, they see Devon talking to the cops. Once everyone leaves, he approaches Bird and angrily blames her for causing all of this. He talks so rudely with her that she ends up running away, crying. Connor then follows her, and the two sit in a hallway to talk. As they converse, Bird tells him about her father, who was a reporter. One night, he wanted to show her one of his projects, but she declined as she wanted to go for a sleepover at her friend's house. This prompted Dad to turn around his car to return home, but he unfortunately got into a fatal accident. Upon hearing this, Connor offers her comfort, assuring her that the accident wasn't her fault. The two then check the contents of the camera case and find a locker tag hidden inside. Intrigued, they visit the library to research the significance of the date. After going through several old articles, they discover that the camera was owned by a photography teacher, Roland Joseph Sable, from their school. He was accused of torturing 4 students and killing 3 of them while taking maniacal photographs. One of the captives escaped, after which Roland was shot by the police. Later that evening, the friends gather at a restaurant to discuss their next move. Amidst this, Bird tells them that when the entity was coming after her, it came near some hot thing and reacted to it. She then explains that while developing the photos, heat and light can mess up the images. Thus, she speculates that this thing might behave like a developing photograph, which means it can only exist in the dark. Furthermore, she also reveals a picture of Roland's old house, suggesting that someone related to him may still reside there and possess information. Casey goes through the web and finds out that the house was purchased by an individual named Dan Faraday. Amid their discussion, Devon expresses his frustration over Mina's fate and decides to click Bird's picture to understand how it works. But Connor doesn't like the idea, leading to a struggle for the camera. In the process, a photo is accidentally snapped, so the group anxiously waits for the picture to develop. Shortly after, Devon is seen in the photo, and the shadow transfers to him, indicating that he's the next victim. Fearful for his life, Devon tries to use the camera on one of his friends. In a desperate bid to stop him, Casey stabs Devon's photo with a pencil, and its real-time effect causes him to drop the camera. This enrages Devon, and he tries to attack the friends, but Sheriff Pembroke shows up at the right time and arrests him. Later on, Bird and Connor attempt to explain to the sheriff about the danger lurking around Devon due to the Polaroid camera. Bird also presents evidence regarding Roland, but the unfazed officer warns them against delving into Roland's matter. Before departing, Bird speaks with Devon, who apologizes for his earlier actions. He also suggests that his death could buy them time to stop the entity. While returning from jail, Bird receives a call from Casey, who informs them that Anne wasn't the actual buyer of the house, it was Lena Sable, the wife of Roland, using a fake name. Despite Pembroke's warning, Bird and Connor decide to visit Lena to uncover the truth. Back at the police station, the lights go out and the ghostly entity attacks Devon in his cell, resulting in his demise. Meanwhile, Connor and Bird arrive at Lena's residence, who refuses to talk to them at first, but when they mention the camera, she reveals it belonged to their daughter, Rebecca James Sable, matching the initial initials are JS. Lena then leads them to her room and shares her story. Rebecca endured relentless bullying at school and often retreated into her world. The camera they gifted her became her solace, accompanying her everywhere she went. However, one day, her 4 friends tricked her into going with them. They took inappropriate photos of her with the camera, which they circulated in the entire school to humiliate her. Overwhelmed with shame, Rebecca tragically committed the unthinkable. Following this tragedy, Roland discovered the photos and vowed to avenge his daughter. He captured the bullies in a dark room of the school and clicked their pictures before starting to kill them. Soon after, the police intervened and they shot Roland, who died clutching the camera. Lena reveals that one of the 4 kids managed to escape and shows them his picture. As she finishes her story, the lights in the room begin flickering. This prompts Connor to check the photographs, and he sees that the shadow has moved back to the group photo. Sensing the imminent danger, they leave the scene and rush to school, summoning Casey as well. Upon arrival, they search through the archive drawers for old yearbooks and eventually match the picture of the survivor Lena gave them earlier. Much to their shock, the survivor is none other than Pembroke. Right then, the sheriff arrives with Casey in handcuffs, accusing them of infiltrating the school. In an attempt to stop the entity from killing them, Connor takes a picture of Pembroke before the latter tosses the camera to the floor. Following this, Pembroke reveals that Lena's story was just a fabrication and that the inappropriate photos were taken by Roland himself. He claims that Roland often physically assaulted Rebecca, so he and his 3 friends intended to help her by showing those photos to the police. However, Roland caught wind of their plan and abducted them. As Pembroke finishes his explanation, the entity shows up behind him. The sheriff opens fire, but the bullets don't affect it. It tears Pembroke's photo in half, splitting him to death. The entity then attacks Casey, injuring her leg. At this moment, Connor seizes the sheriff's gun and shoots towards the entity to divert its attention. The girls take this opportunity to seek refuge in the bathroom, where they turn on the hot water to shield themselves. After some time, Bird walks out to find Connor, who soon grabs her arm and pulls her into a room. Bird then comes up with an idea that involves retrieving the camera and going somewhere where Roland can fully develop. As soon as they obtain the camera, the entity drags Connor away. To save him, Bird hurriedly takes a selfie with the camera, drawing its attention towards her. She then leads the entity to the darkroom in the basement. Shortly after, the entity grabs her by the neck and begins choking her. In a quick action, Bird uses the camera to snap the entity's image, inadvertently including her fingers. Despite this, she crumples the photo, causing both the creature and her hand to disintegrate. When this still doesn't kill it, she sets the picture on fire, finally ending the entity once and for all. Following this, she reunites with Connor and Casey, who then share a hug of relief. In the final scene, we see Bird, who tosses the camera into the ocean, ensuring that the cycle of events will never repeat. So watch more movies like this video and subscribe the channel. Good day.